What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, it looks like hype has continued to build and build and build online around a soon-to-air Nintendo Direct, but might not be exactly what people were hoping to see, and the official unveiling for, I know, the Switch 2, but it seems like we're right at the finish line, at least to see what Nintendo has been cooking up this whole time, and I'm going to go over that here with you today. Also, we are going to be talking about the all-digital future, which has once again reared its ugly head as it looks like many people are about to lose ownership over certain digital products. And we're also going to be taking a look at Sony's latest release, that being Helldivers 2, as it appears it's having a bunch of issues right now with developers actually responding. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps it a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And for all members, of course, Newswave is available early, ad-free. If you'd like to learn more about that, check the join button down below this video. And we're going to start today with Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed VR. Now, during their conference call with investors, they had a lot to say about games that have come out this previous fiscal year, or the current fiscal year, and then also games coming up. But Assassin's Creed VR was one that had a particular focus from them, and there's a reason for that, as there seems to be more and more apprehension around making big investments in the virtual reality gaming space. We can see this posted up, though, transcribed by VGC, and this is from Guillermo, who says, "We have been a bit disappointed by what we were able to achieve on VR with Assassin's Creed. It did okay and it continues to sell, but we thought it would sell more, so we are not increasing our investment on VR at the moment because it needs to take off." And that's unfortunate because it feels like that's what we're hearing more and more, whether it's studios actively shutting down or some just saying we don't really know if it's worth porting to something like the PSVR 2 as an example. Assassin's Creed VR was more widely available, I think at this point, with like the Quest line, which is technically the most popular VR headset at this time, but that's kind of where we are. It seems like VR needs to prove itself before heavy gaming investments are made, but then also how do you get people into gaming if you don't have that massive experience like an Assassin's Creed or so on there? It's a very tough situation right now. Also, we did have another acquisition that was announced as Acquire has been acquired. Yeah, we really reached the mountaintop here for acquisitions, but we can see this posted up over on Gamatsu. It says Kadokawa Corporation has acquired Octopath Traveler series developer Acquire. Now, this is an interesting one, and I'll point out why. Because, okay, so Kadokawa is a holdings corporation that has a bunch of other entities underneath of it, like FromSoft or Spike Chunsoft, and Acquire has worked on two games that those companies own, that being Tenchu and Way of the Samurai, and Kadokawa mentions synergy between some of their these studios, and it makes me wonder if maybe we could end up with a new Tenchu game from Acquire after this acquisition, or maybe we could get another Way of the I liked Way of the Samurai, especially back in the day on the PS2, but with FromSoft maybe even collaborating, that could be an interesting one to see. But at this time, yes, Acquire has been acquired. Oh, and funny enough, during that Nintendo Q&A with investors, they were asked about Palworld, which we've seen the response from the Pokemon company, and obviously this was going to come up because Palworld is just incredibly popular, whether it's in all parts of the world or in Japan, where Nintendo would be more familiar with something like that, especially next to Pokemon there. But we can see this posted up by Insider Gaming. This was from the president of Nintendo, Furukawa. It says, according to Reuters, that Nintendo will take appropriate action against those that infringe our intellectual property rights. They did not at all mention Palworld by name, taking a very similar approach to the Pokemon company, not shocking there, and just saying, hey, if we find anything, yeah, we'll take action, but we really haven't heard much at all. I mean, Palworld's still kind of rolling along. I occasionally see it at like 500 or 600,000 concurrent players on Steam, and I know the legal process can take quite a while just to get going, especially they would be doing some pretty deep and intricate research to figure out if they have a case, but at least at this time, it seems like Nintendo isn't making any moves, but who knows what the future holds with this one. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the potential for a Nintendo Direct coming up in the next week or so, and the reveal of Nintendo's next generation device, still called the Switch 2, and hopefully we get that official name here pretty soon, but let's start with where all of this is coming from, because now there's certainly some confidence going into next week as to a Nintendo Direct and even what kind of Direct it would be. Let's head over here though. This is posted up by Go Nintendo, where they say along with that comes more talk of a rumored Nintendo Direct for this month. The latest round of rumors from the same sources above, that would be Nate the Hate and Necro Felipe, claim that next week should be the time and place for this Nintendo Direct, but that it would be a partner showcase. So that would mostly focus in on third-party titles. Now, you could look at this and say, okay, that's speculation, obviously, for a partner showcase, considering they might have heard of different games that would be in this Direct, and it's like, well, there's a lot of third-party stuff. I don't know what's going on there, but maybe it's going to be focusing in mostly on third-party games. Okay, partner showcase. That's one way you can look at it there. The other way is Nintendo is clearly working on a bunch of games to launch their next system with, and not just launch, but also support it through the first 2 to 3 years. Seriously, there's a lot that Nintendo has to do as they primarily focus on their first-party offerings, although I think their next system is going to have quite a bit of third-party support. Think about how the Wii went to the Wii U, and I know the Wii U didn't do well, but at launch, it had a Call of Duty, it had Madden, it had all the third-party stuff that the Switch doesn't, actually. So yeah, I believe that Nintendo's next system will have quite a bit, at least at launch in that first year, from third parties. But that also means if they're working to fill in the gaps, you would get remasters, as we are seeing, remasters, remakes, you want to call them that. And then you would probably have third-party stuff come in to take advantage of that current install base. So yes, it does kind of add up to a partner showcase or partner Nintendo Direct for next week. And I know it's not what everyone wants to hear, but that's better to probably set your expectations there and just be surprised if it is a full general Direct. Now on the other side, let's talk about the Switch 2, because I know everyone has heard about it for so long now, and it's like, when is Nintendo just gonna announce this thing? We believe it's coming out at the end of this year. We do. Analysts do. The market seems to indicate that, like the stock market, based on the way it's moving. So what are we looking at here? Well, this also coming from Nate, as well as Necro Felipe, which we can see this posted up over on their site. Again, all this down in the sources below. But they say in the most recent episode of his podcast with his predictions for Nintendo in 2024, and later in his appearance on the Game & Talk podcast. Wait a minute. I know that podcast. That's a really good podcast. You should check that one out. In fact, on the after show, I think Nate was even talking about some game or something that would be at this showcase next week. Who knows what they talk about on the after show there. It's over at the Spawncast Network. But they say, in order to solidify this statement, I contacted our sources who corroborated the report made by Nate Drake about March, adding that multiple development companies, publishing partners of Nintendo, are preparing to announce their projects, and that several retail stores are moving to prepare the start of pre-sales of the system. So think of like your GameStops, Best Buys, Targets, etc. there, right? In this case, though, I think it makes sense for March. I've kind of talked about this for a while, and Nate did hint at the idea that, okay, something is lining up for March, and he said that last year around the time of some of those Gamescom rumors about how Nintendo was showcasing a prototype of their next system, with Breath of the Wild showing that there are no load times, the Matrix demo, that sort of stuff. But like March was coming up. And when you look at the calendar, we're ending the fiscal year, which Nintendo seems easily poised to hit their 15.5 million Switches. That's like no problem right now. They should actually even eclipse that fairly easily. But then GDC is at really the end of March, it's like the 18th to the 22nd or something. That's a place I would expect stuff to just start leaking out. A lot of developers will be there talking about what projects they're doing, not even necessarily with press. Well, okay, maybe some with press, but with each other. And a lot of times you'll hear rumors come out after that. So this seems to be a time where Nintendo wants to at least present what the system is in way of probably a trailer just to show it off. Like just drop it online and then go into GDC and be able to talk freely with a lot of these developers about projects that they might be preparing for the first, we'll even say half, with how long it takes game development, the first half of this new system's life. So I am thinking right now, March, somewhere in there, probably before GDC, so the first 3 weeks, we will finally see what Nintendo has been working on as a successor to the current Switch. So exciting stuff, but first up, we should see a partner direct next week. Next up, let's talk about Ubisoft once again. This time, though, let's talk about their plans going forward with one major release that I think many fans of Assassin's Creed are looking forward to, but even myself, who's not a huge Assassin's Creed guy, very, very curious about how this one's going to turn out. So what they really went over, of course, was recent performance to talk about Assassin's Creed VR, but also going back to certain titles that are coming up for the rest of this fiscal year. That includes Skull and Bones, which, well, we're going to come back to that one. That's February 16th. There is an open beta, by the way, that's going on right now, so technically you can just try it out if you want, just to see. You never know. X-Defiant, also set for the release by the end of this fiscal year. We're now, that's March 2024, by the way, so still about 2 months or so, or a month and a half or so. And the fiscal year 2025, that starts up in April, will include Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Project Red. That should then be released by March 2025, but let's face it, you figure Assassin's Creed would want to position itself for the holidays. I'm kind of thinking October or November for Assassin's Creed Red. By the way, that should be taking place in feudal Japan, and that's an exciting idea for it. While I am picturing something like a Ghost of Tsushima, I think they can do some really impressive stuff based on the technology they have, or at least the gameplay they have when it comes to the climbing, stealth mechanics, and so on. But then also kind of mix that in with some of the fighting and samurai. There's a lot of cool things they can do here with Assassin's Creed Red. The Division Resurgence and Rainbow Six Mobile, those are the free-to-play offerings. Those are also expected in the fiscal year 2025. And going back to Skull and Bones, this was pretty funny. Yves Guillemot, of course, again, CEO, Ubisoft, says Skull and Bones is, and I'm not kidding, a quadruple A game. Quadruple A. He says, you will see that Skull and Bones is a fully fledged game. It's a very big game, and we feel that people will really see how vast and complete that game is. It's a really full triple, quadruple A game, or triple, and they stopped when quadruple A game that will deliver in the long run. To me, this is mostly just marketing speak. Quadruple A, I guess you get to that point after you've rebooted the game enough times, but he's just trying to put it over because there was a whole contract they had written up funding from Singapore, and like, they have to get the game out. That's why it has not been canceled, because they have that like contractual obligation agreement with, I'm not even kidding, Singapore apparently, to release this thing, and they probably have to sell so many copies, and it's not looking good. So yeah, I'd say this is the greatest game ever made. Please buy it. That's why they're doing all these things with the open beta and just trying to get people to at least play it. I really can't seem to care much about this game, unfortunately. And hey, we'll see when it comes out. There'll be reviews, and I'm sure some people will try it out and discuss it. I'm just not really too confident in this one doing well. But hey, quadruple A game, maybe it's worth checking out, at least for that. Next up, let's talk about that all-digital future once again. And this is another case of, I feel like people believing that they own these digital goods, or after they've made these digital purchases and they go into your library of digital offerings, that you just have it forever. And to be fair, Funimation kind of did say you have it forever, barring a few restrictions here and there. So, I mean, they said it, but in this case, it looks like that won't actually be happening, and we can see this posted up. This is by The Verge saying Funimation is shutting down and taking your digital library with it. So what's happening? It's been 2 years since the initial announcement that Funimation would be absorbed into rival animation service Crunchyroll. That will be happening, though, April 2nd. As part of this unification, the Funimation app and website, all that will be sunsetting, but if, say, you've bought, I don't know, a Blu-ray with Dragon Ball episodes on it or something there, and you know how you get that digital code and it's like, oh, you can have the physical one, but if you redeem this, you'll also have a digital version of this added to a library we'll keep for you. Those are apparently going away, which is not great, obviously, because that was part of the initial contract. You could say the purchase you made was that you get the digital and the physical version. Now, one thing I think of here is it just doesn't necessarily migrate over for Crunchyroll with these digital purchases, these ownership like parts to it. It's very strange that they would just say, nope, that's it. That's all gone. So if you're someone who has the Blu-ray still or DVD, or you're probably like, well, that's annoying because I liked having that digital offering, so I have to take that off the shelf every time. Or if I'm traveling, I can just watch it without any issues, right? But if you're someone who maybe cleared out and started moving off of your physical stuff, which kind of happening now in games, right? And you're like, oh, I have the digital version, it's fine. Well, not after April 2nd, apparently, and that's one of the biggest reasons I wanted to bring it up here. The gaming sector is still kind of lagging a bit behind, obviously music and movies and shows when it comes to the digital adoption rate. It's still moving though, so will we get to a point where this comes up for gaming in like a mass scale like this? I mean, it could. That's the biggest thing here to bring up around that all digital future. Convenience, yes. True ownership, though, I don't know about that one. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Helldivers 2. This released yesterday on PC and PlayStation 5, and it's done fairly well out of the gate on Steam, amassing over 50,000 concurrent players. Unfortunately, though, some of the user reviews are not doing as well. Fairly mixed right now, and it's from a string of issues, whether it's DRM, like anti-cheat, that people aren't very happy about because it's very intrusive, it seems, on your system for all of that to work together with just a video game that you're buying on Steam. But then the other part is that the game itself appears to be very, very unstable. It's crashing like constantly for some people, and it's going to depend obviously on the configuration for your PC, especially video card, CPU combinations, RAM type. There's a lot of stuff obviously that goes into that, but it's not adding up to a great time for people who decided to pick this up day one. Well, we do have this response here. This is posted up over on X from the official Arrowhead Game Studios account saying, we've uploaded a patch to Steam that should improve matchmaking for PC. The patch also includes some other crash fixes we've identified. We know there's more to solve and we're working our way through it. So at least we did have a timely patch that is working to fix some of the issues, but based on, reviews that were being made as of like an hour before this recording after the patch came out, still some work to do on what's a fairly unstable release, at least on day one for PC. But the other aspect, and this brought up a lot of conversation around it, is the battle pass that's in the game. It's $10, so the game's $40, the battle pass is $10. We've become so accustomed and just used to battle passes that it's like, all right, whatever, there's a battle pass there, it's like a premium and there's a free one. I mean, you bought the game, right? But it's there, and you look at it, okay, there's some cosmetic stuff, and then wait a minute, there are guns in there, and this is the thing that's been brought up as pay to win. As in, can a game that is player versus enemy, so there's no PvP in the game at this time, if it's just player versus enemy or player versus computer and you're all working together, is it actually pay to win? Well, to me, I believe that you can call experience boosters and single player games pay to win because you're technically paying to jump ahead or just pay to fast forward, I guess you can say. In this case, though, the battle pass having certain guns that, yeah, have advantages, are stronger or reload faster, what have you there. Yeah, you can say that's pay to win, I feel like. Now, again, you're working together and there are many other guns to earn and use, that sort of thing. But I feel like now for battle passes, most people accept cosmetics, and before it was like, they're doing all these cosmetics. Now it's like, okay, yeah, cosmetics, whatever, who cares? But now with guns and stuff, it feels like they're towing the line a bit too much on that one, maybe trying to get a bit more out of that than they should. But let me know, I am curious, people out there with these battle passes and stuff, do you think that's pay to win despite it not being PvP, or does it have to be you gain a serious advantage in a competitive environment over someone else going against them for it to be considered pay to win? And before we go to the comments of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday. We're asked, which Capcom series listed would you most like to see return with a new game? Dino Crisis was number 1. Okay, 41. Hey, look, Akami, though, right there at number 2. Not bad. Dead Rising. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing a new Dead Rising. I've thought about that from time to time. I look back at the Xbox One launch, and I was like, oh yeah, we did have a Dead Rising there with it, and it's been a while since we had something like that. And then Onimusha and Rival Schools, but Dino Crisis, I mean, that's the big one that most people look at and say, come on, you're doing all these Resident Evil remakes. Can you do Dino Crisis? And then they just trolled everyone with Exo Primal. But wouldn't it be funny if you fired up another trailer a couple years from now and it's like, oh, is this an Exo Primal expansion? Then, oh wait, it's a Dino Crisis remake or a brand new one in the series. That'd be a fun way to bring it full circle. And we'll finish up with the comments of the day. You can see here, this is posted up by Zane, who says, Third Strike being back at EVO is awesome. I mean, I saw that. I know I kind of glossed over it a bit. I wasn't aware that that was like a big thing, but I do remember Third Strike in the sense that I would go over, this was like in high school, I think, because they played it on the original Xbox, actually. That one had online, which was a big deal then. But they would play it constantly, and it was really cool to look at because the visual style, of course, really had that arcade look, but just kind of the sprite work and stuff was like top tier for that game. But yeah, they would play it all the time. I wasn't really into fighting games, so I would watch, but I get it then in that sense. If this is something that people have been asking for and it's there, I mean, a high quality game, and it is fun to spectate. Now, we do have another comment that I want to point out. This one is from the members video. I figured, hey, there's comments being left there, and then on the public one here, why don't we take comments from both of them, which you can see this posted up. This was by Jazz, who says, the sad part is in the worry about normies upgrading is that we had iPods and iPhone upgrades for new iPhones far more frequently, and lots of people still felt compelled to upgrade. Yeah, the thing with phones, it is really funny. We get phones all the time. There have been commercials that joke about it. It's like you get your phone, you take it out of the box, you look up, and they're taking that billboard down and putting a one up with the next phone after the one you just got. But with game consoles, it's we just are like, all right, we don't want to buy another console. We just want games for this one. Even a mid-gen refresh of the PS5 has been questioned for a PS5 Pro. It's like, yeah, the phone upgrade path seems to work on one end, even if it's $1,000, but the game console upgrade path, like that's that frequent, not so much. So I am curious for people out there, what is like the main difference? Is it because phones have become more of a necessity in general, or because you can feel like you can wait years even to upgrade that phone and just a new version will be there every year, and then you can kind of have your pick at that point. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. There's Nintendo seemingly moving for a Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase next week, but also about a month or so from now, finally seeing the next Nintendo system. Do you think that's going to happen, and are you relieved to hear that we might finally be done with all the Switch 2 speculation? Also, what about the situation with Funimation and these digital shows and movies just being shuttered completely and pulled out of people's libraries? Does that concern you maybe about the future for all digital when it comes to video games? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.